is the Successful Communications in a Dynamic Freight Market webinar. I'm your host, Sean Smith from Denim. With me, Sean McGillicuddy, Chief Revenue Officer at Tai, and Justin Sowa, Chief Information Officer at Encounter Logistics. I'm sure it's not news to anybody that a successful communications mechanism and system and process is crucial for any freight brokerage and their operation. So we brought for us today Justin Sowa, who runs Encounter Logistics and all of the tech and tools supporting Encounter and all their growth. Welcome, Justin.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we want to hit a few things during our time today. Sean and I have packed our agenda. So we're going to hit, Encounter Logistics, your background, where you came from, specifically the challenges that you've been facing in the past with communications and tech, and then your current operations today, what's working well for you, and then the most important, what impact you're seeing in the business and in the brokerage. So let's jump right in. Justin, tell us a bit about
All right.
Encounter Logistics. When did you start? What's your focus?
All righty. Well, thank you both for having me. So, unfortunately, Donald Browning was supposed to be joining me today. He was unable to join. One of our customers had a meeting on Friday. They wanted to move it up to today, and our commitment to our customers is paramount. So, he made sure to be in attendance for that. But he did leave me a few notes and things he wanted to address. But brief overview where we came from. You probably not heard of Encounter Logistics. We recently did some rebranding. Denim is familiar with rebranding, and it all started in 2006 when Donnie bought Zartran, and he bought the name from Pierre Foods, and he was doing all of their in-house transportation needs. And Zartran continued to expand as a carrier, picked up new customers, and they reached a point to where they were having to haul more loads than they had trucks for. And that's when they founded Zartran Logistics. And that was in 2016, brokerage entity and formed just to handle the overflow for the customers. And Don's goal, he desired to have characters with the same kind of character and commitment and passion for what he does. And our customers, they were pleased with that. The carriers that we were bringing to the table, and they wanted us to continue expanding the brokerage operations. And this is around the time that Donnie met Paul, one of our other principal partners, and he was the director of supply chain for one of our customers. And they decided that one day, when everything settled down, they were going to bring that passion and dedication into a whole new entity and start up a 3PL, together. In around 2018, I joined the team. My job was to streamline operations and improve efficiency. I now manage our IT and some, most of the day-to-day operations. We are a small team over here, and our accounting functions. And thanks to all the technology that we have, I do this from the back of a truck. If you notice, my background's a little weird. I am in the sleeper of a Volvo right now. Paul and Donnie, they both drove, and they recommended that I spend time in the truck as well. I got my CDL. My intention was to drive, but we weren't expecting the explosive growth that we experienced. So now I do most of it, most of my day is dedicated to the brokerage, but I still ride along. I want to see, have a better understanding of what these drivers have to go through day to day, because that makes me a better broker. And June of last year, that's when Paul joined the team, and they decided, go full time 3PL. They sold our trucks to, actually, this is one of the trucks that was sold to one of our partner carriers. We were good friends with them, sold the trucks off, and they extended, they ended the asset side of the business, but it was time for a new vision. They renamed Zartran to Encounter Logistics, and the goal there, we have a diverse background and have encountered multiple aspects of the logistics field, and we're not asking anyone to go through anything we haven't personally been through ourselves. So no matter what, our customers, they're everything to us, and our carriers, they're like family to us. And since then, since the sale of the asset side, the company operations have changed to the point that we needed a new TMS. And after considering many options, we went to Tai, and we're glad we did.
That's awesome to hear. So can you maybe you took us through quite the journey. Wow, Zartran to Encounter is
Huge
that's a
change,
winding road.
yes.
You made it. So in the early days, can you share a bit about what the operations looked like when you were first kind of running the brokerage in the business? What sort of pain points, especially as it relates to communication, did you feel like you came across?
Well, we definitely started from scratch. The office that I went to was in Gulf Coast. And the lady I worked for, Donna Daly, she would write the loads down on a piece of paper as she got them on the phone, every little drop, and then she'd scatter all the papers across her desk, assemble them, hand them to me, and then I had to put them in the computer. That's where we started from. And everything was completely manual. Load building, dispatch, document collection, billing, it was all done by hand. So we had to enter the loads into the system, and that opened up a door for many data entry errors, which I'll touch on a little later. And to dispatch, we downloaded the rate con out of our system, emailed it or faxed it to the carrier, and then that had to be signed, printed out, and then we stuck it in a file. And we kept a file for each load, and then just kept adding more documents to the file until it was ready to go to accounting. And it would take, after that was done, hand that off to accounting, and they would scan everything in and upload it to our old factor. And then the factor would require all the load details as well. So then they'd retype everything into that portal, upload the file, and submit. It took about 2 to 3 hours per load, not factoring talking to the carriers or anything, just, dealing with the paperwork was like a 3-hour process per load. It was an absolute nightmare. And, with the constant paperwork shuffle, there was very little time to communicate with our customers or our carriers. We were preoccupied with just keeping things running. And most of the time, we wouldn't even know a problem was occurring until the customer had, an angry phone call coming at us. And so it wasn't a good place. We knew the current process, it wasn't scalable. We couldn't, just the amount of staff we would need to support that kind of operation, we couldn't afford it. We were too small to afford that many staff. And we tried to make things better. We tried managing everything in Adobe, got Adobe subscriptions. It made things a lot cleaner because we had issues in the beginning to where, you print out a picture that a, driver took and then scan that picture back in. The quality was terrible, and we were getting rejects back from the customer all the time. And it all came to a head when we experienced just an absolute major failure for communication in both the carrier side and the customer side. So we had a carrier that had dropped trailers at one of our customers in Mississippi, and they needed to get a trailer back to Ohio, and they wanted us to do a power only. And so we offered to do the power only for them. And failure number one, a load comes across. It was improperly entered into the system. It had an appointment for Monday. They put in the appointment for Friday. And so all of a sudden, there's this hot load in our system, and we are trying to get it moved, and took a loss on the load in order to get it moved at such a short time frame. Found a carrier, got them dispatched, and checked in the drop trailer to be loaded. None of us aware that it was a Monday appointment. And failure number two, we never confirmed trailer information after it was sent over to the customer. And turns out they did not find that trailer on the lot. And they said, well, there's another one. And that they know that we've worked with before, and grabbed a separate carrier's trailer and loaded the product on that trailer. And brings us to failure number three. The carrier that picked up, did a great job, took a picture, all the different angles of the trailer with the other carrier's logo plainly visible, and pictures of the bills, sent it off. And the dispatcher saw the email, but I guess, was probably, going through this paperwork shuffle, and just replied, good to go. Did not notice that this was the wrong trailer completely. And so, long story short, we ended up having to pay rent to the carrier that we took the trailer of. And then the carrier gets up there, the delivering carrier, and they say, you don't have an appointment till Monday. So then we had 2 days layover that we had to pay to them, and then had to deadhead the carrier back to Mississippi to return the trailer to its rightful owner. So all in all, we lost over $7,000 on a single load, and all just due to lack of communication. And so that was just ultimate failure for us, and we vowed we'd never do that again.
So I heard a couple things in there, and check me on this, Sean, right? There was a tracking problem, right, where you were uncertain on what you were supposed to be able to take down and how you're supposed to pass that information along. There was a confirmation problem where the carrier thought they were doing the right thing. Kudos to them. Took a lot of really great pictures, passed along this information. But I think you had a workload problem where you were spending more time on the wrong stuff and not the right time on the right stuff. And it caused a bit of a mix in terms of who was supposed to confirm this work. How are we supposed to make sure that we were able to get the right carrier and the right truck in the right place at the right time?
Exactly. Yeah. The biggest thing was we were just all overworked.
Yeah. And that's the common tale, because in talking with Justin, I can tell you it doesn't sound like he thinks anybody in his team doesn't want to do a good job, right? Like you're working with folks internally that, broken freight is not, in some cases you could argue it's a simple concept as far as how you go about things, but it's certainly not easy, right? Like it's definitely a lot more, there's a lot more complexities in it beyond just like, yep, we get a shipper, and then we go find a truck, and like you can explain it in kind of these simple terms, but there's all that stuff in between that can go wrong that Justin just explained. And we find that if we can simplify the communication and, through an email integration and some automations that might trigger, right, or easier ways to punch in shipments and make sure that they're accurate. The biggest thing is, yeah, we can explain one-to-one how much time those save you. But like Justin said, I think the biggest thing is if you don't have all those little simplifications that save you maybe 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, your team's frazzled, right? They feel overworked, even though you feel like you should be able to do more shipments, right? And the reality is if you have good people, that's what we're trying to do with good technology. And, is really try to scale their efforts. If you like them, you think they do a good job, they work hard, they care a lot. How do we make it so that they actually have that breathing room to like, hey, I should probably call the customer and confirm this, right? But you can't really blame them when they're scrambling and just trying to move so fast, and then things just slip through the cracks if they don't have a good process in place.
And it was that moment, that's when we made the switch. That's when, Tai came into the picture. We knew our TMS, our TMS was built for a carrier. It could do brokerage things, but it was not built for brokerage. And we looked at a bunch of options, and, Tai was, brokerage first. And so that's why we chose Tai. And first things we did, we set up Tai to integrate with both MacroPoint and Highway. And so, and we set up a bunch of workflow automations. And the two big ones, for example, when MacroPoint pings the loads in transit, it'll automatically inside of Tai, the load goes to in transit. That sets up a workflow automation which assigns the carrier rep, and it'll send a email for us on our behalf, and it requests the loaded BOL to confirm the loaded details. So we're no longer, okay, that load's in transit now, let me write the email, mark this in transit. That's all done for us in the background, not even thinking about it. And then when the loaded BOL comes, confirm the information, mark the assignment as complete, and do the pickup audit. And same thing with delivery. When MacroPoint pings delivered, Tai marks the shipment as delivered, and then an email goes out requesting the proof of delivery, which they can actually upload straight into Tai without going through email channels. And a delayed task is set for 48 hours. And if in 48 hours that the shipment doesn't move from delivered to complete by our accounting team because they don't see the POD, then it sends the carrier rep another notification. Hey, we don't have POD. It's been 2 days. Please reach out. And so that's being done in the background. Nobody's having to think about it and go through. And also, all of our documents, we got rid of our file folders. Tai, now all the documents are stored in Tai. We no longer waste time, printing everything out and then sticking in a file just to scan it back in later. So instead, we actually spend that time talking to our carriers, making friends, finding better ways to service them. And, without our carriers, we have nothing. They're our lifeblood. And, Tai has really helped us there. Just those little emails, they really become, they're all consuming at some point. And it's all automated now, but that's, it's not, we still have the same number of staff now. They're making phone calls to these carriers and developing relationships. We're developing drop fleets at our different facilities, things that we just didn't have time for before. And with Tai, we also set up an EDI connection. That was the second part, the input of air, with that customer. And so with the EDI, everything is transmitted exactly how the customer wants us to see it into Tai. And so we're no longer having those key punch errors. And just in terms of having to type everything in, we're probably saving about 10 to 20 minutes per load, which that really adds up over time, not having to do that. But not all of our customers are EDI compliant, and that's where another little tool, the email assistant, comes in. And when a customer, I've got Tai integrated into all of our email accounts. When a customer emails one of us and requests a pickup, Tai is already siphoning that data out of that email and creating a quote in our system. And so all I've got to do is, open up Tai, the email's there, confirm it, everything's good, shipment's ready to go. And so we're never going to need EDI with those because the Tai email assistant takes care of that. And all these are these like mind-numbing repetitive tasks that just consume a lot of time. This is not, they're very important tasks, but they're not building your business. They're keeping you operating. And we don't view these as replacing anyone. Instead, it's just freeing our staff up for the important part, building relationship. And at Encounter, we actually don't have a split house. I know a lot of brokerages have a split house, but so when I'm working on a load, I am both the customer rep and the carrier rep. And this morning, I had a perfect example of this. I got a call from our customer letting me know that a load was going to be ready early. And I had already spoke to the carrier this morning, and the driver called me, and we were just chatting. And so I was able to tell my customer, he told me he was running ahead of schedule. So I told Amber, I said, Jerry will be there in an hour. And as Don says, it was passionate, personable, and proactive. That's the 3 P's he's always going for. And so, we know these carriers on a name basis. That's how I'm communicating. Both the customer knows these drivers' names. I know their names. We're going back and forth. I'm not, putting them on hold and checking with the other departments. But so yeah, Tai sealed a lot of holes in our operation.
So I heard a few things, Justin. On the shipper side, you've got EDI connection with some of your shippers, which helps in the quoting, confirmations, and making sure that you both are on the same page there. For those that don't have an EDI connection, you have an email automation tool, and that's provided by the Tai folks as well, which also helps processing a lot of these quotes. And so how has the kind of quote and confirmation process changed for you on the shipper side specifically?
So on the shipper side, being able to have that data quick has been huge for us. We used to miss out on a lot of quotes because just trying to get all the information in the system, or we'd spitball a quote really fast and then lose on the shipment because we were way off and didn't take our time. And so having that pulled into the system immediately, and then you just click truckload quoting, and all of the carriers that have hauled for us in the past, all their rates are presented to us. And then the DAT rates are right across the top because we're integrated with DAT as well. And so we can respond fast to these carriers or customers.
And you had a record month in August. No big deal.
Yeah.
We get to see all your money. Yeah. Let's talk about the carrier side. Let's zoom in there. So you mentioned a bit about macro point and tracking. You mentioned a bit about rates and how you all price on the carrier side. Can you talk a bit about carrier communications and how that kind of goes right from rating in the beginning all to kind of payments at the end?
And so we pride ourselves on having a private carrier network. We love DAT and the service that it provides, but at the same time we do not. That's a last effort for us. We want to deal with carriers that we know personally. And so the first thing we do when a shipment comes in is go to the truckload quoting screen, and I send out the email quote requests. And so email all of our carriers, show them all their details about the shipment, and they can just click the link and send their rate back. We're not going to haggle them on the rates. We want to see what their rates are. And those audits I was talking about earlier, the pickup and delivery audits, that comes into play too because it gives the carriers a star rating. And so all of a sudden, inside of Tai, I'll have multiple rates in front of me from different carriers, their performance ratings, and I can pick a carrier easily there, click a button, and transmit the data to them. And so that's changed entirely when everything was just phone calls before and just running down a list of our carriers and just saying, are you in the area and things like that.
Awesome. What else can we look forward to, Sean? What else is sticking out on the customer and carrier comms?
One of the things Justin's an example of somebody I would consider just using the system really, really well, right? Like there's a lot to it, and having somebody like Justin using it, like he knows how to set up all those automations and things like that, which is, we always encourage, like, get yourself an expert or a power user internally, right, to set up all these automations. Our team does it during onboarding as well, but it's nice when you have somebody like Justin who can go in there and sort of create some of it. But one of the biggest things is he explained how he can see all of his top carriers, right? Like there's a scoring system. So he's able to see who's run this for me, who's a top carrier, who's in compliance, all on that one screen. And he can pick who he wants to reach out to. And then the quotes come back to the same place. But even if you're a broker who's maybe getting started on a new lane that you don't have a network for, you just don't have enough, and you do have to post onto DAT, it's great that we have load boards as an industry, right? Like this way to, it's a great way to find new relationships that you should be starting. And so one of the things that's really cool is you can post from Tai, and then you can bring back into Tai the quotes you're getting from DAT. And then hopefully over time, you start to see, if you're going to run that lane all the time, you'll be able to see who is trying to quote me most often. Because if I get, let's say 10 quotes for a one shipment I'm trying to do from the load boards, I want to be able to see those. Next time I come back to do that lane, I want to know that I've got those 10 carriers, and I want to reach out to them again, right? And if I make that easy on my carrier rep team, all of a sudden I'm growing my network. The second time I run it, I reach out to those 10 carriers, but then I also post again, and maybe I get another 5. Okay, now I got 15 potential carriers that I'm starting to build a relationship with. And one of the things Justin's team is obviously doing really well is he explained a lot about the empathy they have for the carrier, because they were a carrier. He's sitting in a truck right now, right? Like you don't necessarily have to sit in a truck specifically, but if you have time, I would encourage you to think about what a carrier goes through, right? And it'll help you understand who you want to work with. You get those 15 carriers for that lane, and you start to be able to, you understand what they go through, you know how to negotiate with them. And now hopefully you've got 5 go-to carriers on that lane. So if that's a new regular customer running that lane all the time, I now have complete visibility. And that's not something new. That's just Justin leveraging our truckload quoting page really, really well.
That's awesome.
Something in that page as well. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You were talking about DAT, and that's how we, try to expand a little bit at a time, is that you can select to pull posted trucks from DAT for that area. And so I'll pull those into the list, and sometimes we'll notice, carriers that we recognize, and we'll reach out to them I haven't even touched DAT at this point. I'm still inside of Tai, and I'll find available equipment, or I forget the button exactly, but then it'll pull them into the screen.
That's awesome. So it seems like we hit a lot of preload, we hit a lot of during load. Can we talk a little bit about post load? So you picked up the correct trailer, you dropped it off the correct place on time. You don't have to eat $7,000 on the load. You're actually making money. Can you share a little bit about how that process works for you?
Yeah, so we had time, everything was going really well there, but we had one big problem still. Billing was still manual for the most part. And that wasn't on Tai's side. That's because we used a factor. And, things got much better with Tai keeping all the documents in one place. But once all the required documents were attached to a load and it was marked as complete, the billing process would start, download all the files, combine into a PDF, upload to the factor, add all the load details. And there was still a major bottleneck in our operations. And like I said, it was like, we had a race car engine in a Pinto all of a sudden. And so it was the back end was getting backed up. And so, operations were accelerating, but the car was falling apart. And we were backed up on invoices. Carrier payments were ending up being late, and not because of, days to pay, but just simply not getting the invoices submitted in time. And I reached out to Tai for help, and they were able to create a report for me that I was able to upload into that factor. But ultimately, we wanted it to be fully automatic. And they reached out to the factor to see if they can make that work, and they were not interested. And, we hit a wall right there. And we thought, well, we're stuck with this. And Tai said, hey, have you heard of Denim? And that's when they introduced us to Dan Igo over at Denim. And we ultimately made the transition. And, that really brings us today in the back of house with Denim is what changed. We leverage technology and automation in a way we never could have imagined. And, shipper side, key punch errors reduced, EDI, email assistance. Customers, they get the front office in Tai, so they have a full visibility into shipment status and locations coming from MacroPoint. I don't have to share the location links with them. They just log in, go the load they want, hit location. They can see where it's at. And so, I guess, once you get the back end, review the invoice details, approve it in Tai, and then we create an invoice in Tai. And that's when, my favorite part now, I'll have all these loads processed, ready to be sent to Denim. I open up the factoring management screen, select the loads, I hit factor. That's it. they're gone. They go off to Denim, and at that point, Denim handles the rest. They review all of our documentation, and they make sure that everything's present and matches. If something's missing or BOL's not matching, they actually look through that and they'll reach back out to us, and they'll deliver the invoice to the customer, pay the carrier. Which, speaking of which, when a carrier onboards with us, we present them with multiple different payment options, and Denim allows us to give carriers quick pay, and we can charge a fee to that quick pay automatically, which originally we wanted to do the quick pay, which Denim always offered a flexible days to pay, but we didn't do quick pay because we had to go back in each load and edit it. And then Denim had an update, and they launched that now they'll do that on their end. And so now Denim deducts the fees automatically from the carrier payable on their end, and that extra revenue gets added to our advance. And so we've set up our fee structure to where when a carrier requests quick pay, it gets added, it covers our factoring fees. So anytime a carrier's on quick pay, that's getting factored for free, plus a little extra to pay for the carriers that are not. But Denim gives us those discounts on the days to pay. So it's a win-win. We're either getting the lowest fee possible, or by delaying the payment, or we're getting the money, carrier gets their money faster, so they're happy, and they cover our factoring fees in the process.
Sean, I kind of want to tee you up here if you don't mind, because I heard a lot of really good things. I know that our customers love the smooth transition between Tai and Denim, and that's why we like working with Denim, is because they're not just a great factor, but they do put an emphasis on modern technology to make the broker's life easier. Justin said a lot of good things. I almost want to kind of hear your take on why is it so smooth and easy to use on your side?
And one of the things that as Justin was describing, that was kind of making me laugh is Justin clearly lives in Tai. He wakes up in the morning and opens up Tai, and he goes to sleep at night and he closes his browser with Tai in it. And I love that for Justin. And I love that for all of our clients. Yeah, it's got Tai on his phone. Perfect. For us, we're super happy being a weekly active user type relationship where Justin can just keep working and the money just sort of happens, right? If the most important real estate that Denim has is that little deposit sign on your bank account, and I think we're totally fine to keep that top of mind for you instead. So I love that Justin doesn't have to go into Denim. It's much easier if the money just moves on his behalf and you can keep booking freight. And so I hope that many of our clients kind of have that same experience.
And I think just to add to that too, Denim's done a great job of the way that their technology is built, because we get a lot of partners, people that want to partner with us, and we try to evaluate everybody we can. We want to it's a small world in this industry, and we want to take on any partner we can, but we do have to be selective because of the amount of work that it takes to get something done. So a lot of our customers look to us as kind of almost like a tech expert. Hey, I'm kind of like what Justin experienced. I'm having trouble on the factoring side because my factoring company isn't really getting this done. Who do you recommend? And it's nice when we can say Denim has a really modern platform and they do a good job as a factor. But yeah, our philosophy is that you don't necessarily have to go same way Justin explained DAT. Doesn't have to actually go into DAT in order to use DAT from Tai, because we have to make it so that it's really easy to use the tools you want to use without breaking up your workflow. That's the whole thing. Brokers tend to have a lot of screens open, but we want to limit that. We want to keep them nice and, zeroed in on what they have to complete and, what's the next task they got to go through. Because if you have good people, they'll get it done, but it's easier if we can line it up for them and let them kind of just go down a task list.
The beauty of our businesses, right, is that it's a mutual incentive, right? We do better when Encounters out there moving freight, right? That's the best case scenario for all of us. And so the more we can kind of grease those wheels and make it happen, the better off we're going to be. So let's transition to that. We spoke a bit about hiring and people and workload kind of in the before Denim and Tai days. Can you give us how many people would you need to have on the team now? And how many people do you have on the team now that you have Denim and Tai? So give us what the world would look like if you didn't have us, and what it would look like now.
Okay. So with the amount of volume that we're doing now, I'd say, we're still not big time by any sense, but we'd have a team with our old system. We'd be looking at about 20, I think it would take about 20. And currently, with everything we've implemented, we're at 4. that's all we've
Wow.
got. And no, 5 now. We've brought on, and that's something about it. We've brought on new staff, but his name's Nick. He's coming on, and he's not going to be moving loads. He is going to business development, and so that's going to be his focus. So instead of that was about, if you asked us, before what we were trying to hire, we were hiring what we were calling a load mover. Just somebody to push the load through stages. We weren't looking for brokers, we didn't, or salesmen. We were looking for load movers, just somebody to keep things going. And now we're looking for salesmen and more effective brokers, and we're looking for these specialized roles instead of just somebody to sit behind a desk and do all these meaningless or
Button clickers.
mind-numbing
Yeah.
tasks. Not meaningless. Yeah, button clickers. Exactly.
Okay, so it sounds like there's like a 75% staff kind of avoidance problem, right? Which is pretty compelling. The other thing that sounds pretty compelling to me is the level of skill and the types of problems that people are solving and the types of work that they do every day is a lot different than it would have been too. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and like giving people meaningful jobs. The Nick's coming on to actually make a difference in the company, not just keep the heart pumping.
Yeah, that's a really good that's a really good way to put it. And especially if you can do cooler shit, man, if you have really smart people that can do good work, right? Like that's the name of the game.
Yep.
What do you think, Sean? How does this compare to your other clients in Tai? What do they see as far as their headcount goes?
I think that's kind of the biggest thing that we hear when we get feedback and we talk about this in the sales process even. But like if you have 4 good people, right? You have 4 smart people, and if you want to do a lot more, you're going to need 20 smart people, right? Now, it's very hard to select the right people through your interviewing process. It's very expensive to train them, and then you don't even know if they're going to work out, right? So our goal is to make it so we're not trying to eliminate people. Like whenever somebody comes on, like we're not looking for them to say, oh, cool, I can get rid of half my staff. The folks that gravitate to Tai are the folks that know that they have a good team and they just need a better process. They need a faster way to move more loads. And oftentimes you do see their loads per person per day doubling in Tai, especially if they're trained correctly. We have a few case studies on this as well, but if they're trained correctly around how to use the truckload quoting page, how to use workflow automation, how to use the email tool so that you're not missing quotes coming in. All those things add up quite a bit. And if you could move twice as many loads with the same amount of people you have today, that's massive, right? I mean, we work in a low margin industry and we got to keep our overheads low, right? So even though you're buying new technology, that's always what I encourage people to do is do the math. Do the math on like okay, our tech might be a little more expensive than what you were paying for your old TMS, but if we get you double the loads, then it's a pretty easy decision when you look at it in black and white, when you actually look at all the numbers.
The old penny wise, pound foolish conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. You even have the sunk cost part too. Sometimes people are like, no, I already paid a bunch for this on-premise system and, and I don't want to scrap it. And it's like, yeah, but if it's hurting your business, sometimes you got to just bite the bullet and move on.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So Justin, I think important thing you mentioned a couple times is around how money hits your accounts and how your kind of cash flow is impacted, maybe how your growth is impacted. Can you talk a little bit about what the bottom line looks like for you all? Don't share anything that's going to get any of us in trouble, but like give us your characterization of how the financials of the business have changed. We might have lost Justin in the tunnel. Oh, here we are. Great. Keep going.
I think we were able to do. Oh, no. My hair? All right. So we used to do like it was once a week was all we could really afford to deposit the hit from our old factor. And then it's like pay bills. Okay, we're broke. All right, process, versus now with Denim, I'm uploading jobs every day, and we're not having these spikes. anymore. It's we're getting to a smooth line, and we're actually able to see like growth trends and things without running a bunch of calculations saying no, it looks like it should be fine. I know we're about to overdraft, but we're going to be okay. Like,
So I'm hearing a lot
that's
of
helped out a
like
lot.
maybe comfort and a little bit more security when it comes to how the balance sheet is looking for the brokerage. That sounds pretty important.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we had some really, tight margins, and well, we didn't have a lot of room for error on things, and $7,000 lost loads, like those came out of the owner's bank account because we didn't have it at the time. And now we're actually, our goal now is to build a reserve fund so we never run into, big issues like that again. And Denim has allowed us to have that freedom. We've got, all of our bills have been put on auto pay in a sense, and we just let the bank account do its thing, and knowing that Denim is continually topping it off for us, and we're getting those funds much faster than with a trying to wait for the carrier to, or the customer to pay.
That's awesome. We do have a question from the group I'd love to float to you. So can you talk a bit about how paperwork, like let's say invoices or bills, how those get into Tai?
Okay. So there's, a couple different ways, and we tend to use multiple of them, and because every carrier is a little different. I've got carriers that still text me everything. And so thankfully we have dial pad, and so I'll pull those texts in and I'll manually upload that into Tai. But when a load is delivered, that email that I say that goes out, there's a button that they can click on, and it'll take them to a page where they can upload documents themselves, and those documents will go directly into the load, and that goes in as a POD, and all we're waiting on from there is the customer bill. And when that comes in, we'll download them and then send them to Tai in what they call, was it the document uploader or bulk? I
Yeah,
forget the name of the
document
exact.
processor. Yeah.
Yeah, the document processor. We'll upload them into there, and it will, if it's a PDF scan where it can read the text, it'll do OCR and it'll find the corresponding, load for it. And if not, the bill's right there in front of you, and there's the universal search. And so you just type in the bill of lading number, it'll find the corresponding load, and then you can upload from there. And so you can work in bulk. And so I'll let the emails in the billing email, I'll let them rack up throughout the day, and then around 2 o'clock, around this time, I will download everything, upload it as one big file, and then sort through whatever was sent that way. But we're trying to move more towards everything being uploaded into Tai, and the more automation, the better.
It is a relatively new feature, and I'll just say this for Kathy's sake and for, I guess, Justin's sake, is if you can make it so that your team has a way to just easily, like if they're getting, if it's all getting emailed to them, they can forward it to Tai, and it will import it for you, the paperwork, and it'll queue it up so that you can just go down, like, it's kind of what Justin's explaining, is you just want to be able to go down your queue and verify that the paperwork looks right. And if you hit OK, it automatically sorts for you. So that document processor, if you're a Tai customer and you don't know how to use that, reach out to your support team because it's a huge time saver.
That's awesome. Can we? I guess this is a good transition point too. So, how can you characterize any of the changes in, call it, carrier or customer satisfaction, kind of how your stakeholders are operating, given these kind of new dynamics on how you communicate?
So, the biggest thing is the level of communication with our customers now. I remember, like, it's still ingrained in me when the transportation manager of our biggest customer called me, and I thought he was going to eat the phone. He was so mad, just screamed, just completely irate. And I was scrambling trying to figure out what was going on because he's mad and I don't even know why. And now, we still, things happen that especially in this industry, things are still happening, but I'm calling him first. And I'm saying, hey, this driver's going to be late. Here's what's going on. Here's his new ETA. And I'm happy with that. Just, oh yeah, we'll work it out. And they're happy with us now because they're not going to expect perfect performance. I mean, we're not in a perfect world, but that level of communication that we have with them now, it really has changed that relationship. And most of the time we just call and chat, and we're developing a relationship with them now instead of just being yelled at from performance failures.
Yeah, that is not fun. I think we all have been
No.
on a call like that, right? At some point. So it sounds like we've got some really cool tools around how we work with our customers, how data gets moved back and forth, how we kind of stay in communication. Sounds like we're a little bit more proactive, maybe with the team that's kind of better supported by like a healthy financial kind of structure for the business. What are some things maybe, Sean, that we can look forward to from the Tai folks for maybe as 2025 is right around the corner. Nobody blink, it'll be right here. What's on deck?
Yeah, a lot of enhancements to that workflow automation tool. So I'll actually be presenting some of those features next week at TIA. But just the ability to, just like you would in a CRM, the ability to say, when this happens, I want this to automatically happen, and build out your own workflows in a really user-friendly way where you don't need some. I mean, a lot of companies have a third party who has to come in and create those automations in your TMS, or, build it out for you. Tai is making it really easy for, a simple user to just be able to say, this trigger, I want it to produce this action. So like if a quote request comes in from this customer, I want this rate put on it. And then if they say yes to it, I want it to go to this team of carrier reps. So that's just one example of like just an easy way to reduce like tedious tasks, right? Because otherwise I know it seems small, but like somebody actually has to say like, hey, need you to cover this load, or, or you might even miss something because it's just slipping through the cracks. So we're just trying to help automate. Depending on your business model, we want you to be able to automate some of the just easy stuff to free you up to actually pick up the phone and make sure relationships are moving in the right direction.
Justin, does that sound enticing to you? Real-time feedback on
Yes,
Sean's
because
roadmap. Do we like it?
there are still some things that I have, I'll set reminders for myself. And if I can automate that as well, that's going to be just another level. So I'm excited for that. And like you said, I set up the automations that we have. It's already in a position to where you can do that. And I think they just updated some of it too, because it got easier to work with, and so it just keeps improving.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's awesome.
Two companies, both Tai and Denim, I have never seen like so many. I mean, Tai looks completely different now from when it started. It's just a year and a half ago, like the whole system's got a facelift, new features. Denim's adding new things constantly, and we're excited about the whole fuel card thing too. We're already on that. I have a meeting after this actually about that. So
that's awesome. Glad to hear that. So final thoughts for everybody. We're coming up on time here. Justin, anything else to share with the attendees before we wrap?
No, I just if y'all decide, if this is something that you're interested in, then you're in good hands with both Tai and Denim. Like they're a good pair, and Tai is willing to integrate with almost anything. That's just they've got so many, but they're getting there, and more is coming. And so it's just set yourself up for growth.
Sean, final thoughts?
No, I really appreciate Justin coming on, and hopefully I'd love to do a case study with Justin. So hopefully we can release that to anybody who wants to see just how to make better efficiencies in your organization.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for attending. We hope you learned something today. Get in touch. We've got a bunch of folks that are ready and waiting. And we'll catch you on the next webinar. Thanks everybody.